think most of the players at this point just want to play pickleball and know what's happening, whether they are or aren't merging. The largest payout ever in pickleball at that point, they almost swept us 3-0, but we came all the way back and beat them in a dream breaker. I think I hit a winner on Riley and I got it down low on him, and James yells out. And like, if I'm being smart about it, I probably shouldn't, but like sometimes you just got to dunk on a Karen. I think we got to start like miking up some of the practice sessions or something, like, for sure. You want me to read you the list of people? I would say if there's advice that I have for players, it would be experimenting with new stuff. So yeah, we'll have a new line at some point in 2024. It sucks.
Controversial, innovator, shit talker. What words would you use to describe Zane Navratil? One of the most interesting aspects for me in these conversations with these players is the chance to hear these backstories from their perspective, especially championship matches like winning MLP titles, which Zane has 3 of. What goes through their mind? What's said behind the scenes? Who is behind the person we see on the court? Find out in this episode with Zane Navratil. Real quick, I just want to say something regarding this video. First off, I just want to say thank you for clicking on this video and giving me the chance to share with you what Zane and I created. I just want to give you a heads up that during the filming of this podcast, I experienced some camera issues. Thankfully, between the 2 cameras, it was the one that's pointed at me that had the issues. So the one pointed at Zane is perfectly crystal clear. Everything looks good. The audio on both sides is great. It's just that the camera that was pointed at me just got out of focus in and out throughout this video. Again, thank you for being patient and understanding. Without further ado, my guest, Zane Navratil.
Yeah, that's interesting too, because my mom is Indian, my dad's white, and like me and my dad had that just like friends relationship, and then my mom was like the more of like the disciplinarian, like Asian like parent. I think there are plenty of differences, but there are some similarities between like different types of Asian, like I think the parenting is somewhat similar between Asian cultures. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
That's so funny. Like disciplinarian for sure. Is your mom like did she come from India?
Mm-hmm.
So is that first generation?
Yeah. So yeah, she came over when I think she was like 23 or something like that.
Oh, damn. So she's like cultured, like has an accent. She probably cook the food real well.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, she's got a little bit of an accent. She's been here for, since probably the late 80s, early 90s.
Okay.
And they speak English in India, so like she knows the language really well, but there's still a little bit of the Indian accent. And it's funny when she talks to her family on the phone, then it just goes like straight Apu accent. Like she'll be speaking English, and she doesn't have very much of an accent, but then she'll be talking to them and she'll be like, "Oh, Zener had the very best marks in school today." Like it just comes back out.
You want any of these?
I'm all good. Thanks, dude.
Jack fucking...
He probably tore them up, huh?
Yeah, dude. This is weird. This is crazy. Yeah, I think I've told you before, but I remember just watching your videos on YouTube. Like, yeah, I guess like 3 years ago. You, Sincola, that Asian guy with the glasses.
Asian guy with the glasses.
Yeah, it was when you guys were, I think you were in like Minnesota.
Oh, Jerry. Yeah.
Does he like play competitively on high level?
He does. I mean, he really only plays around like the Midwest area. So, yeah.
That guy's cool.
Yeah.
He was solid. And I remember before people even knew about Coop, like she was in those videos too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I remember those ones. Yeah, we would always have some good highlight points back in the day.
Dude,
Althoff would drive in. We'd play with like the Badger. You know? Yeah.
Those were sick. We would watch those videos and just be like, oh man, like pick apart like this and that. And it was cool because it was like indoor facilities weren't really a thing, especially like dedicated facilities like 3 years ago, which is kind of crazy to say. And you guys had like your own little, like, it looked like a bunker. And you're like, where the fuck is this? No one knew where it was.
Yeah, that was like Sincola's lab back in the day. His mother-in-law rented it out, and they put in a pickleball court. It was in like the middle of this office park in Crystal Lake, Illinois, and I would drive an hour and a half each way to go over and play. I put on some serious miles on my car back then.
Oh my God. Damn.
Yeah,
That's
dude.
crazy.
Those would be like 7-hour round trips. I would drive an hour and a half, go play for 4 hours, drive an hour and a half back. It was brutal.
Holy shit. Damn.
Got to do what you got to do.
Those stories are so cool though when you're like early on in your career, like you are like just grinding away and doing that. Not that you aren't grinding away now, but I guess like the grind was like more tedious and like you had to do things like that, like drive an hour and a half one way. Damn.
That wasn't even the worst of the grinding. That was when I went full time. Mm-hmm. Like before that, I was at Deloitte, and I was working from like 7:30 in the morning till about 7:30 at night because it was our busy season. And in order to get pickleball practice in, me and Kyle Slinko, the guy who runs Boxcar Productions, we would go practice at the YMCA from 5:30 to 7 every single morning, and then I would go work 12 hours and come back, get home at like 8:30 because it was like 45 minutes away. And we would play with a Franklin ball on a gym floor, just the two of us. And that was the absolute worst, but we made it happen. Looking back at that, I'm like, damn.
I hate playing on those like basketball floors. It's terrible.
Yeah, well, beggars can't be choosers. It's better than not playing any pickleball at all, I suppose.
Yeah. Welcome to another episode of Building Pickleball. I'm your host, Brian Lim. Thank you to my sponsor, Vuori. My guest today is Zane Navratil. Zane turned pro in 2020, has over 100 medals won, holds 3 MLP titles, has had 2 signature paddles. Zane, welcome to the show, man.
What's going on, dude? I didn't know you were sponsored by Vuori too.
Yeah,
dude. I'll take off this. So I'll take off the squeeze sweatshirt.
That's a dope sweatshirt, though.
Thank you. I love it. I love myself some crew necks. But I got the Vuori pants on. I got the Vuori shirt
outfit.
On. This wasn't even planned. I just always wear it. They're sponsor of the Pickle Pod too. So
hell yeah! How long have you guys been sponsored by them?
Probably at least 9 months or so, I would guess. But it was easy. I just like wore all the same stuff I pretty much always wear. So
yeah, it's like a no-brainer. Is that the Strato Tech tee?
You lost me there. I don't know. They all feel great.
He's a phony.
I don't know the technical terms, but it's good stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, their stuff is awesome. What have you been up to recently? Okay, actually, I was at the Paula Flamingo Classic tournament. I forgot who I was talking to, but they were talking about like the Pickle Pod and when Riley was in town. And then Riley and Thomas were playing with someone at the lab against someone. They went undefeated against this other team. Were you on the other team?
Yeah. Riley came to Austin. This is probably only like a week and a half ago. He came to Austin to get some reps with Thomas. And we filmed the Pickle Pod because he was announcing his ProXR deal. And me and Deckel played against Riley and Thomas for 2 days straight. We probably played like 7 or 8 games each day, and me and Deckel lost every single one. And we were like, "Damn, dude, this is the team that's gonna beat Ben and Colin." Like they were playing unbelievably together. So yeah, unfortunately, that was me and Deckel. But since Deckel's not here, I'm going to go ahead and say that Deckel was the problem because this past weekend, me and Erik Lange beat Riley and Thomas 2 out of 3. So Deckel's the problem.
Yeah. Oh, that's hilarious.
And I made no hesitation as soon as we won that match. As soon as I saw Deckel the next time, I let him know that he was the problem in that
match. That's so funny. Yeah, dude. Desert Ridge, that was sweet. See you and Erik Lange get third. I mean, would have been nice, but
yeah, well, we'll take it. It's been a while since we've been on the medal stand, and I don't think Erik's ever actually been on a PPA medal stand. So he played unbelievably. I think we deserved it. We took out some good teams, and Yeah, dude, Erik's a beast. He's playing unbelievably since he quit his job. So
Yeah, that's like the secret ingredient.
yeah,
apparently.
for sure.
Yeah, I always thought Erik was like super good. I was like wondering like why before you and yeah, even before you, I don't know who he was partnering up with in men's doubles, but I was just like, why isn't this guy getting better partners? I thought like at MLP, I think there's like just they just didn't play as much together, like him and Ben. So there's like some miscommunication, but like overall as a player, like his shots, his instincts, like his hands, like super, super good. And that like it was proven in the match. The match I saw that you guys did in this past weekend was against Christian and Julian. That was dope. Dude, you were hitting some clean attacks.
Yeah, we decided we weren't gonna dink a whole lot. We just decided, you know what? We're gonna rip some serves. We're gonna rip some thirds. We're gonna rip pretty much every other shot too. And you know, when it works, it works. It's high risk, high reward, and you know, I do think with the new ball, you can get so much more spin. I think that the game is speeding up, even in men's doubles.
Oh,
So,
really? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the first game against Christian and Julian, you guys won 11. Didn't you guys win 11-0?
We won 11-1. Yeah, that was like a 5-minute game tops. Mm-hmm. The next game was 13-11, and that was probably a 10-minute game. Like it was a close game, but just a lot of scoring on serve and not a lot of tremendously long points.
Yeah. Damn, that's sweet. What and then like who knocked you guys out?
We lost to Deckel and Tyson in the semifinals.
Oh, damn.
Mm-hmm. That was a fun match too. Lots of body bags in that one.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I missed
Oh,
it.
yeah.
I'll have to look back and watch those.
That's an entertaining one to watch. Erik tagged Deckel like 4 times. Tyson was shooting a bunch of them at Erik. Deckel got Erik once. I managed to not get hit the entire time. Small guy power.
Again, it was his fault that Riley and Thomas beat y'all.
Yeah, I'll go on the record. Now you're gonna get Deckel as your next podcast guest. I know it, and be like, Zane said this.
That's why
I'm like,
doing
yeah,
it.
that's fine. See, I just own it, and I'll say it to his face too. So,
This is what I'm doing. I'm trying to create like some tension.
yeah, create some beef.
Did you guys use the same game plan against Deckel and Tyson?
Pretty much. Well, there were like, you know, there were some strategy changes, right? Like, you know, we didn't really want to get into a long cross-court dinking pattern with Tyson. You know, we had different places that we were looking to attack, but the main strategy was the same, which is we're going to rip third shots, we're going to rip serves, and we're going to play aggressive.
Damn. Yeah, it worked out perfect for y'all. You guys plan to play any more together?
We should. There's still a lot of confusion up in the air about MLP PPA stuff. But if the merger happens, which it's looking like it might, I think Erik and I are definitely going to try and find some more together.
What are the players ultimately like? What's the consensus that they want? Do they want the merger to happen or not?
I think most of the players at this point just want to play pickleball and know what's happening, whether it is or whether they are or aren't merging. I think they just want certainty. It's kind of like the markets, right? Markets can react to good news. Markets can react to bad news. Uncertainty actually moves the markets more than anything. And so right now we have a state of uncertainty. People don't know what to schedule. People don't know what their pay is going to look like. You know, I think no news is scarier than bad news.
Did you signed with MLP though, right?
I did.
Yeah.
Yep. I signed back in whatever that was, August.
Speaking of that, I remember, okay, so I looked at your Twitter, and on August 28th,
Oh, boy.
2023, Connor Pardo tweeted about their money being in the bank and over $5 million of it, upfront money, was going out, and you replied, "I'll let you know when the money you guys owe me hits the bank account." Has the money from the PPA hit your bank account yet?
Yeah, we got that figured out.
Okay.
It took some back and forth, but we ended up getting that figured out.
Hell yeah.
So, got paid.
That's good.
We'll take it.
Yeah. Do they have any like MLP events scheduled for this year?
There are a bunch of them on the calendar, but I don't think they can really effectively run a Major League Pickleball event for probably a couple, maybe months after a merge. Like, you need a little bit of preparation time to run one of these events like well.
Like, is there any chance that Vibe would come back?
I'm assuming if the merger doesn't happen, like the day that the merger doesn't happen is the day that Vibe is again announced. That's their basically counter to MLP.
Do you think the MLP is gonna like get to that point? Like, how? Like, I feel like the problem or like the main issue with that people had with Kuhn was that he couldn't figure out how to generate revenue from MLP aside from like teams and like ownership changing. Like, have you looked at that at all?
Well, I mean, I don't that's true, but I feel like not full in context, right? Like, MLP so far has hosted like not even 10 events, right? They did 1 in November of 2021. They did 3 in 2022. They did 5.5 in 2023. So what does that mean? That puts us at 9, right? 9.5. So yeah, no, they didn't have very many revenue streams, but it's still very much like a startup. And the model was to move the teams to their regions, right? Like, I was on the Orlando Squeeze, and have actual sort of home and away matches and allow the teams to sort of promote Major League Pickleball in their local areas. So I think it's a startup. Like, I think the idea is sound. Do they have any revenue? Not really. But you can always go back to the fact that, like, if it's a good idea and there's a desire to invest in it, which there was, profits, I'm not going to say don't matter, but there are different metrics of success that you're going to use, right? Like, a perfect example is, I think Amazon turned their first quarterly profit ever in like 2019, right? Even by that time, it was one of the most valuable companies in the entire world, and it had never been profitable, because it was just growing and acquiring market share, and people knew like that it was going to be a very legit company, right?
Yeah. It's interesting you mentioned that. I think Uber just posted their earnings report, and they just were profitable for the first time since like 2019.
Really?
I think.
Since
Yeah.
pre-pandemic. Interesting.
Yeah, I think so. Damn.
I hope they're profitable now. They're so much more expensive than they used to be.
Are they?
Yeah.
This is
Seems
great.
like it.
I own Uber shares, so
Okay, there we
this is
go.
what I wanna hear.
Congrats.
Yeah.
Congrats. No, I mean, like, more expensive, not the shares, but just actual
Just the
like
rides.
taking rides. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting.
But they got us hooked.
They do. At one point, they were gonna have like those flying. Did you remember those? It's like called like Uber Air, and they had like 4 propellers facing down, and it was like this like air taxi.
Oh no, I don't remember that.
Oh, they had like concepts, and they had it like in one of the museums in DC, and I just don't understand how that was ever gonna be practical. I guess like now, but yeah, who knows?
Sounds kind of, I mean, it sounds cool, but it seems like they should let somebody else do that tech, and then just like they didn't invent the car, right? To use for Uber. They just let people use their own cars. So it seems like it was a slight departure from their model to start like trying to invent something completely new.
Speaking of MLP, you got your second. We have 3 MLP titles. Is it 1 or 2 with BLQK?
We did 2 with BLQK and got 1 with the Squeeze this year.
Which one was like the most satisfying one?
I mean, the first one was awesome, right? Because it was the largest payout ever in pickleball at that point. I remember it was here in Austin. It was at Dreamland. It was at night. Like, the atmosphere was awesome. So like the first time, I feel like there's always something special about it. But then this year in Atlanta was pretty special as well because, in the first half of the year, I was on the Frisco Pandas and we didn't win a single match the entire time. And so to be able to sort of rebound and go back and win was awesome because, again, the crowd in Atlanta was unbelievable. We were actually down 2-0, and they had multiple match points to finish the match. They almost swept us 3-0, but we came all the way back and beat them in a dream breaker to take that win. And then also, this year everybody was playing, right? In 2022, it was just the MLP players. This year, Ben, Annalie, Riley, all of the top players were playing. So to get that win in MLP under those circumstances was sweet as well.
Oh, I didn't even put that into like consideration. So the one in 2022, is that the one that Chris and Will filmed?
They filmed the second one that we won. So we won in Austin and we won in Columbus. And yeah, they came over and they filmed a bunch of like the preparation going into it and stuff. Did a pretty cool little documentary, which turned out well. And yeah, they put in some work.
Yeah, dude, that documentary is awesome. This is like probably like the 20th time I've talked about it because I'm just like, that documentary is so cool. But then you look at the view count and you're like, maybe more people just don't know it exists because like when you watch it, you're like, oh, this is awesome. This like is capturing the moment so well.
For sure, they did such a good job, and yeah, it didn't like perform. We were just talking about YouTube before we even got on here. It's like no idea what people are gonna actually sort of want to watch. Like, you always think like, oh, dude, this is gonna be sick, and then it gets like no views, or you throw out some shitter video and it goes like viral and it's the one that just randomly crushes. It is always the opposite of what you think it's gonna be.
You have 2 videos. I was looking at your channel before this. You have like the one with the highest views is like 200 something thousand views. Is that the one about the serve, weaponize your serve?
Yep.
The second one is, that one's about returning the serve, which is interesting. Did you think either of those were really going to be like, we're going to pop off?
Really quickly, I want to take a moment to thank my sponsor and also give you an exclusive discount for supporting this channel. So Vuori is a clothing brand that specializes in athletic and performance wear for both men and women. If you haven't heard about Vuori yet or tried it, ask a friend. Chances are they have or they know someone who has. I've seen it quite a bit, not only on the courts, but just walking around here in Austin. You can usually recognize Vuori on any of the shorts because it is that circular logo with a V on it. So if you want to get that discount, go to vuori.com/buildingpickleball. Not only will you receive 20% off your first purchase, but also free shipping on any orders of $75 or more, as well as free returns.
I didn't think that the serve one was gonna pop off, but yeah, that's the one that's got like 200,000 views on it. And it wasn't even any of my serve videos about like the chainsaw, right? Because we did the chainsaw stuff in 2021 and 2022, but it was just a video called The Newest Way to Weaponize Your Serve. And I was talking about how you want to make your opponent hit on multiple axes, where rather than just hitting it hard or hitting it deep, you want to have some loop to it, was the essence of the video. And I was like, yeah, it's a fine video. I didn't think it was going to pop off like that. I did think that the return video was going to do well because it's something that's contrary to common pickleball knowledge. Everybody thinks like slice your returns, but with the current paddle technology, if you're slicing your returns at the pro level, you're going to get absolutely eaten up. Like, because if you are slicing your returns, it's basically just giving your opponent topspin. When it comes off of my paddle, every revolution of slice that you're giving to me is a revolution that I can send back. Now, it's not actually a 1-to-1 ratio, but like that's the logic. The more slice you give me, the more topspin I can hit back to you. And it is so contrary to like pickleball for forever, or even tennis. In tennis, people know like slice your return to come in because it keeps the ball low. Well, in tennis, you can take the ball, pocket it on your strings, and send it back and wipe the spin off. In pickleball, you can't. So I did think that one was going to do well. And I think it's like my second best performing video. And the comments are just like phenomenal. Like it's just like random old 3-0 dudes be like, I slice and I have a lot of success. I'm like, I'm not talking to you, homie. Like it says pro pickleball players never slice. If you are slicing and it works, you can keep doing it. That's cool. But like if it doesn't work, maybe this is why. So
that was exactly what I was going to talk about next, was like the comments, because I love going into the comment section, especially on other people's videos. I don't like it necessarily on mine. I don't fucking like it. But like I went into yours and I was like, what could people possibly be saying like negative about this? Like, and then I was reading like one guy, he had like the top comment and like 35 likes. He was like, it's exactly what you're talking about. I was like, oh, well, at like the level that I play at, this works perfect. And I was like, well, what are you like aspiring to? Like, if you know that you're trying to like play against the best people, or you want to be like your best version, you know you're eventually going to meet the people that will just return that with topspin, and it's just going to dip that ball like right over the net into their feet, or just like just past them, and it's going to land in. Do you read the comments on your videos?
I usually skim them. I'm actually like, I go through phases where I do reply to everything, and then recently I've published so many videos it's hard to keep up with everything, because people will be commenting on something from a year ago, and it just continues to accelerate the amount of comments that I get. So I try to reply to people who leave like thoughtful comments on the video. So yeah, I skim them. Honestly, maybe I'm just a weirdo, but like I find like the negative comments more entertaining. I'm like, this guy really took the time out of his day to write up 4 paragraphs about how much of a dumbass I am or something like that. I'm like, all right, dude. Like, so I actually kind of find the negative comments pretty entertaining. Yeah, I think I might be a weirdo for that. It really doesn't bother me.
Do you ever snap back at them?
Yeah. And it's honestly more, it's not like an anger thing. It's like, all right, you want to play? We'll play. Like, I talk so much shit on the court, and this is just my version of talking shit off the court, right? So, like, if somebody's going to call me, like, dumb or whatever, like, that's fine. But, like, you started it. Fair game. Let's go. You want to play? We'll play. I don't do it too much, and like if I'm being smart about it, I probably shouldn't, but like sometimes you just got to dunk on a Karen.
Yeah. It's so awesome because like I've seen that recently, like at the lab when I was like there to just like film Jack, and then like all 4 of you guys was like you, Sincola, Jack, and Carlos, just like the shit talking that people don't know that happens during practice. Like, it's so funny. Yes. It changed my view of y'all. I was like, oh, these guys are so much cooler now.
I think we got to start like miking up some of the practice sessions or something. Like, it's fun. Like, we're all such good buddies, and we also know like sort of when to stop. Like, we're not really like trying to be assholes out there. Like, we're trying to have fun. And if somebody is having a bad day, like, we're not going to ride them. Like, so like just today I was sitting out a game, and like Jack and John were playing against Declan and Carlos, and for some reason I just decided that like I was gonna rag relentlessly on Jack, and which like Jack is like an unbelievable friend, like such a good dude, and so yeah, basically like every point I found a way to just make it Jack's fault. Every point that they lost, and even points that they won, I'd be like, dude, that was lucky, or Sincola bailed you out, or whatever. I was doing this for like 5 minutes straight, and yeah, it was fun. Got to keep yourself entertained.
It pays off. It's like it's like thickening his skin. For sure.
There we go.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. I'm honestly, I'm doing him a favor. You're right. Thank you. I needed that justification.
Honestly, he should Venmo you.
100%. I'll coach him up.
Yeah.
That's mental toughness training right there.
What was like, you can kind of sometimes see like some of the on-court antics like during events. What was like the most heated match that you've been in? Like, was it against DC Pickleball team in the MLP, like against Riley? There's like some chirping there.
Yeah, I would say like that was probably one of the most intense. I would almost classify heated differently, like animosity. Like maybe there was something chippy or like, bad call or something. So I wouldn't say it was like necessarily heated. I would say that it was intense, and there was definitely like some back and forth on that. And like James Ignatowicz and Jericho were just like yelling crazy stuff from the crowd. Like I think I hit a winner on Riley, and I got it down low on him, and James yells out, "It's not too late to change your grip, Riley." and I think Riley said something like, "I'm going to kick your ass" or something like that. I'm going to see you in the parking lot afterwards. So that was, Atlanta was definitely like the most intense match.
I'm interested in like the team dynamic. I meant to ask this earlier, but like since you've won 3 MLP titles, I guess like Irina's won like 5.
She won one. She won the very first one. She won 2 in 2022 because I was on her team. I knew that.
One
and
with
then,
mad drops.
And then, yeah, 1 with the mad drop. So she's at 4, I think.
She's 4. Does anyone else have more than her?
I don't think so.
So you're at, so she's at 4, you're at 3. Like
Ben might be at 3.
Yeah, so that's like not many people who have like MLP titles. Is have you thought about that? Like, is there like a formula that you think is a catalyst to a good team?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Like, I think having a group of people that have, like all of us on the squeeze had played college tennis and were good teammates. Like Andre, Rachel, and Anna all played really high level tennis. I played very, very high level Division III tennis at Wisconsin Whitewater.
I was waiting for that.
But like at the same time, I learned good skills. Like we were intense. We weren't the best players in the country, that's for sure. But like we learned how to be really good teammates and whatnot. And so that goes a long way. And I do think being a good teammate has like a strong effect on your success when there's a group of 4 of you, as opposed to just, yourself out there in singles or you and your doubles partner. Like it's a skill, and it is a tangible skill that I think affects your rating essentially. Like I do think being a good teammate can boost the duper level of yourself and your teammates in Major League Pickleball. So we meshed well. There weren't any like crazy personalities that, wanted it to be, all about themselves. Like we were a team. We all cheered each other on. Like the styles meshed pretty well. And I think that's super important. And just players who like energy, I think is huge in MLP.
Whose fault was it on the Frisco Pandas then?
Whose fault?
Who do we have to blame?
Well, I would say, I mean, we can blame me, I suppose. I'm not a first round pick. So yeah, I'm not a first round pick. So as Tim Parks has said, that was the cardinal sin of the Frisco Pandas, was taking me in the first round. And I would say that's probably accurate. I would have to agree.
Damn. Yeah, that was interesting because DJ was the other male partner?
For the last event, yeah, we had traded Matt Wright. So Matt was originally the second pick. And then we had Yana and Lina.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Damn. Yeah, I don't really remember watching too much of that.
Yeah, we weren't on very many streams. Our days ended Saturday at about 9 a.m.
Damn. Oh, shit. That sucks.
You know what? That's the crazy thing is I still had fun at MLP and those. Like, you just bring it. You try your best. Like, the matches are still close. Like, the actual games themselves are close. Like, we didn't put together 3 wins in any match, but like, it wasn't like we were embarrassing ourselves out there, right? It's not like the Detroit Pistons or something like that. Although I guess you can say the Detroit Pistons have more wins than the Frisco Pandas did.
The Detroit Pistons of pickleball. Yeah, I imagine those events are pretty fun though, because like just like as a spectator, they're great because you don't have all the antics of all like the amateur players and all the riffraff going on. It's just the pros, and then you know exactly what you're like kind of watching. It's great.
Yeah, and I think it's good because you can schedule matches. That's probably the biggest thing. Like when I go to a normal tournament, people will ask me when I play. I'll say our bracket starts at 11 a.m. I don't know if they'll have a court for us at 11 a.m. I don't know which court it's going to be at 11 a.m. And after that, I have no idea whatsoever. So here you actually have matches scheduled. Like you can get people to show up. They know when to show up. And I think that's important for the player experience and for the fan experience.
Yeah. Are you still playing any singles matches?
I will every now and then.
Are you about to MTE up?
I am. Yeah. I'm gonna go for it. I'm thirsty. I need some energy. I'm gonna send it.
This episode is brought to you by MTE.
Hell yeah. It's not actually, but I just need some MTE. I partnered up with these guys almost a year ago actually, and like I'm definitely pretty into health and wellness, and a lot of these like energy drinks and whatnot they got a bunch of crap in them. So this is really just like, this gives you energy without like hardly any caffeine. Actually, there's a little bit of it in there. I think it's sourced from like green tea leaves, but it's got stuff like ashwagandha and like different types of functional mushrooms and whatnot. Like, it's sweet.
I like mushrooms.
What type of mushrooms? What type of mushrooms are you talking about?
We had talked about that briefly and what your like day looks like. And you had talked about how you have this list of every day you have this list of 25 things to do. You wake up at 5:30 in the morning. When did you start being like so regimented? And then where have you gotten like some of your inspiration of how to optimize your day?
Mm-hmm. Well, first off, I would say like something that I've identified about myself is I like improving, and even in my pickleball game, like improving is my sort of my North Star. Like it's the most important thing to me, and results are byproducts of that. Like honestly, I have fun getting better at stuff, and I think that's a good growth mindset for pickleball because it allows me to take pressure off of individual matches and rely on the systems that I put in place to improve in the long term. So that's sort of an overarching thing for me. Like I like to get better. I like to get more efficient in whatever it is that I do. So, you know, a lot of these things are just things that I've started adding over years. So I started waking up at the exact same time every day because I listened to this Andrew Huberman podcast, which he probably recommends getting a little bit more, maybe sleeping in a little bit more. But if you wake up at the same exact time, your body adjusts, right? So regardless of whether I go to bed at 7 p.m. or midnight, I feel pretty good when I wake up at the exact same time every day. Like, you know, when you wake up and the alarm like just totally jolts you and you're just so groggy and whatnot. Like, even if I am for whatever reason out till 1 a.m., which I'm never out till 1 a.m., but if I were, I'd still wake up naturally at like the same time because my body tells me to, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna be tired, but less tired than if like my alarm went off. So I wake up at the same time every day. And then I have just a list of things that I try to get through on a given day. And, a lot of that just came from trial and error and trying to get more and more efficient and make sure that I do certain things that I want to have done during the course of a day.
When you wake up at 5:30, do you wake up off the alarm or just naturally?
I wake up off the alarm, but I'm sort of starting to like stir a little bit. I also have my thermostat set. It's got
Ooh,
automatic
what is it at?
timers. So like, well, I love it cold.
Yeah.
So we sleep at 66, but then
66. Oh my God. It must
yeah,
be
dude,
like
you're
an
supposed to
ice-
sleep in cold.
Yeah, yeah.
You're supposed to sleep in cold.
100%. I'm at like 69. That's like,
Hey,
and I
hey.
think it's cold.
I see you. Yeah, but what temperature do you sleep at?
Oh God.
Sorry, I'm actually like a 12-year-old.
I don't know how to follow that up. That was just good. Damn. Okay.
So I like it. I like it cold.
So wait, when like your thermostat changes, does it go back up when you're like ready to wake up?
Yeah. So like I start to sort of like feel as the temperature rises, like somewhere in the back of my head as I'm sleeping, and that sort of starts to like wake me up. So I don't have like a sun alarm or anything, which I think is pretty cool. But I wake up to the alarm, but I'm like in light sleep at that point.
Yeah. That thing is like technically you could use it as like a sunlight. It's just like a Philips Hue light, but you can set in like the app, you can set an alarm for it. It's just like, it's completely different from waking up to sound. You just wake up to light and you're like, it just feels way more natural and seamless. And you're like, what the fuck just happened? Like, why am I awake right now? You're like, oh, the light's on. And then it's so like less like jarring than when you wake up to a sound. But I guess now that like some of those sounds can be like progressive, it's like starts off low, and then kind of like increases in volume. But yeah, the light has been like interesting.
Yeah, I think like from what I've listened to in podcasts and whatnot, that's like kind of how we evolved to wake up is with light and whatnot. So I would definitely do that if I didn't wake up an hour and a half earlier than my fiance. So I got to keep it dark and quiet while she's sleeping.
Or you're just not going to make it to practice. Like, we won't ever hear from you again, probably.
Yeah, no, we'd be in for a rough marriage.
When are you guys getting married?
We're less than 2 months away. So what are we recording on this? February 7th?
February 7th?
We're getting married March 30th.
March 30th.
So,
Where are y'all getting married?
the Arlo, it's on the west side of Austin.
Yeah.
So
as soon as I heard West Side, I was like, oh, it's probably nice.
it's nice.
Yeah.
It's very nice. Yeah, we didn't rush anything. Like, we've been together since high school.
High school?
Yeah.
Damn, this guy's traditional.
I don't know about that, but we've been together for 10 years, right?
Yeah.
So we didn't want to rush, and we wanted to have like a nice wedding. And
That's cool.
We've been engaged now for like 18, 19 months. So we've had plenty of time to plan and everything. And yeah, I knew she wasn't running away. She knew I wasn't running away. So yeah, but date's coming up soon. And the nice part is we're prepared. So it's more like excitement than it is like anxiety and nerves.
That's a good way to put it. That's sweet. That's super cool.
Yeah, dude, you don't get nervous if you're prepared. There's some stuff too. Like it's like a Goggins mindset, right?
Did you read his books, both his books?
I read his second book. I'm reading his first book.
Damn, that's so funny that you say that, because when you're talking about your checklist, it reminded me of when he was talking about his time with his grandpa, like Sergeant Jack, and his Sergeant Jack always gave them a checklist of things to do
really?
every day. So that reminded me of actually like when you were talking about your checklist, I was like, wow, this reminds me of Goggins.
Interesting. That must have been his first book. I read Never Finished.
Second one.
Yeah,
It's in
so I
that
read
one.
the second one. Oh,
Yeah,
it is in that one?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh man, I'm a shitty reader then. maybe I have them mixed up. I don't remember the checklist. Was it when he was on like a farm or something, or like working on a farm?
With Sergeant Jack.
Yeah, okay. Now I do
Yeah.
remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I haven't finished that one. It wasn't like as I guess like I wasn't as eager as like the first time. Like Can't Hurt Me. Like, man, I finished that book like super quickly. It's like a great book.
Interesting. Yeah, I read Never Finished first, and I just like tore through that thing.
Oh, really?
And then what's the first one called?
Can't Hurt Me.
Can't Hurt Me is oh yeah, you got it over there.
Yeah.
It's like I've been reading some other stuff before that.
Yeah.
But
That's dope.
yeah. Yeah, he's a psycho. Everybody's got to have a little psycho in them to be like great for sure.
Have we seen your Psycho?
I think we're seeing my psycho in the behind the scenes with like the checklist and yeah, I think that's my psycho.
What is it? Just like obsession?
I think it's for me, like I've got these, 20 some things that I have to do, and like if I don't get those things done, it's like in my mind until I do. And then it's a way for me to basically like relax. Like, okay, once I've gotten these things done, like I can do whatever the hell I want. But like until then, like it's going to be on my mind.
How often do you go through the entire list?
I get everything done that I say I'm going to get done pretty much every day. Like I try to be, realistic about what I can get done on a given day. But like, I don't remember the last time I didn't get through my sort of morning routine daily checklist thing.
Yeah. Damn, that's interesting.
Because it would just it would piss me off if I didn't.
What's the one thing that you dread doing on that, or like that might take you the longest to do?
I don't enjoy answering text messages. I get a shit ton of text messages. I prefer email. Yeah, it's just for me it's easier. I type it out on my computer and stuff. I can have my team help me out if there's something that I can get off of my plate, basically. Because like I have my hands in a million different things, so I try to not do anything that I don't need to. Like, I do a few things very well. I play pickleball. I create the content. And really, other than that, like I want to punt to people who are better than me. So I try and have my team help me with basically everything else. And I've got an awesome team that does help me with that stuff. So I have two who helps me with the most amount of stuff. So she does some like assistant type work, like calendar and whatever, travel and stuff. But she also does a ton of stuff on the business side. Like she sits in on all of my calls and whatnot, and she's involved in like just general strategy and whatnot. So I have two. I have Ariel Butler, who helps me out with clinics and whatnot, some of the admin there. I have Aurora, who runs the newsletter, which takes a decent chunk of time. I have Maddie, who does my social media, and now she's doing Sincola's. She does Ben's. She does Connor Garnett's. So she's awesome. I have Spencer Laurent, who's helping me with YouTube stuff. So he films and edits everything. Hopefully we should be able to get 3 months of content in a single day of shooting. So we do it all pretty much at one time. Yeah. And then I have my agency who helps me out with all the sponsorship stuff. So yeah, there's a lot going on, and it's much more than I can do by myself. So I'm really, really lucky to have a good crew. Oh, wait, hold on. I forgot two people who are going to be really pissed if I forgot them. My mom and dad ship out all my paddle sales. Yeah, they have a store in Racine, Wisconsin. It's called Dimples, named after my mom. And they sell unique clothing and jewelry. And so they have a big store, and I have like a 500 square foot apartment. So I keep all of my paddles and whatnot over at their place, and they ship them to people as they order them from my website. So I got to shout them out too.
Yeah, you can't forget about mom and dad.
I can't forget about mom and dad.
Your parents, I remember like you were telling me that your dad used to play tournaments with him, and that was like one of your like most memorable events. And then
I'm like trying to connect a couple of thoughts here. I know that like you had talked about something that you want to like optimize for in the future is becoming like a good father. What do you think that you've learned from your dad that you would want to like take on and carry on into your role as a father, like in the future?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think something that sticks out to me about my dad was that like this is maybe a function of them owning their own business and having flexibility, but my dad was like always there to play, whether it's tennis or throw the baseball or play board games or whatever. Like we just did so much stuff together, and he had the flexibility to be able to do it. So I would say, there's a ton of hard work that went into that, and like, they do these jewelry shows where sometimes they're gone for a week at a time, and they're waking up at 5 a.m. every day and working all day long, and there's definitely times where they have to grind, but that allows them the flexibility to make time for important things. So I'd say that's probably the biggest thing. Like he was always there to throw around a baseball, play tennis, whatever. And so we got to spend a lot of really quality time together. Did the same thing in pickleball too. So
Damn, that's cool. Isn't that like, that's so like interesting, like what you kind of remember about like your childhood, and like kind of like what you're talking about there is just like them being present, like your dad being present, even though they're entrepreneurs, which entrepreneurs during their time, which isn't like that long ago, but like then it wasn't that easy as compared to now with like technology. Like things weren't as like streamlined, but yeah, I feel like back then being an entrepreneur meant you really had to be like present, like you had to like physically be in a lot of these locations in order to like conduct a business, as opposed to now you can kind of be like virtual. But that's cool that even with like the hours and like the effort that they put into entrepreneurship, he still made like time for you and stuff.
yeah, I'm fortunate. My mom grinded a ton on the business too, and yeah, I'm lucky that they were both able to be around for whatever. So.
Yeah, because you're an only child,
Mm-hmm.
right? Yeah, that's interesting. Damn. Did you guys have pets growing up?
Yeah, we had one dog, Buddy.
Buddy.
He was a goat dog.
Were your parents always entrepreneurs?
For the most part. I mean, they worked a few jobs, but they've I don't know exactly when they started Dimples, but for at least 5 years before I was born, they were doing that. So as long as I've known them, they've been entrepreneurs.
Has like that carried over into like how you conducted your life?
For sure, yeah. So like even when I went into accounting, I worked at Deloitte for some time, and my objective there was to work, get some experience, and then like understand an industry pretty well, and either work in the sort of executive side of a company or start my own thing. So and I'd seen the lifestyle that they have, and I've always been somebody that's like up for betting on myself, and trusting myself to like make it happen. And so yeah, I mean the biggest thing that enticed me was I saw the fact that they work hard, but their hard work pays off in the form of flexibility and being able to be there for important things, right? They came to every one of my sporting events. Like they even come to some of my sporting events now when they're all over the country, right? So every single one of my whitewater tennis matches, all my high school tennis matches, middle school basketball games, soccer games, all that stuff, like they're always there, able to be there.
Yeah, that was actually something I was going to ask. Like, how'd you guys end up in, or why did you guys end up in Austin, you and your fiance?
Yeah, so we grew up in Racine, Wisconsin, and we kind of always knew we wanted to like go try something else and go explore a little bit. And so 2022, well, actually, we were potentially going to move and try something out in 2021, but Jenny won the Miss Wisconsin title, so she had to be in Wisconsin, basically. And so she spent a full year touring around Wisconsin doing appearances, and that was her full-time job. So it was a pretty cool job. I got to go to a bunch of cool stuff with her. So that pushed things back a little bit, and we decided that during that period that like we definitely wanted to go try something else out. Needed to like a couple of things to be there. It needed to be like a cool place. We wanted to go somewhere cool, and it needed to have good pickleball.
Check and check. I think Austin's pretty good at both those.
For sure. So Austin was the natural sort of fit. Like I think the cool places that we were thinking of were, maybe California or San Diego, Denver, Phoenix, Florida, and then like, somewhere northeast maybe. Also there's Austin, but Austin was the best spot for both cool and good pickleball.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I guess in 22. Yeah, there had been like quite a few pros here. Yeah. How's it like impacted your career so far?
It just makes it easier it makes there less roadblocks to success, right? Like, it puts the burden on you. Now there's no excuses, right? Like back in Wisconsin, like it'd be so hard to get 4 guys together to play a high level game. And so it didn't happen a tremendous amount. You had to drill, whatever. But like now there are no barriers to getting a good game. Like you just got to set it up. You can have a good game every day. Like, so makes it more convenient.
Damn, that's sweet. Yeah, it seems like you guys have like good training partners.
For sure. You want me to read you the list of people? I go down the list.
Yes.
I've got it in a spreadsheet. Surprise, surprise.
Do you have it like, this is my first call or first text?
No. But we got a bunch of really good players that you might not have heard of.
There's Thomas Shields on this list.
Thomas. Oh no. Under no circumstance. Maurice the Grease is on this list, but not Thomas. No.
Where's JT? Is JT on the list?
JT's not quite on the list yet. So we got Austin O'Reilly, Adrian, Ahmed, Maximo, Pete, Carlos, Etienne, Grant, Wyatt, Lauren, Vivian, Lina, Julian, Sincola, Stefan, AJ. Although I can basically take AJ off this list.
Where's he at now?
Who knows?
Yeah.
Thomas, Colin, Deckel, Ben, Leia, Jack. There's Hunter and Yates, Wyatt. I think I said already. Like, they're just
holy shit.
And that's not even including a bunch of the like good 5-0 plus players around. So it's like you can get a game whenever you want, basically.
Yeah.
So
do you get to play with Colin?
Not a tremendous amount. I maybe play with them like once a month or so. Like I think they mostly just drill with each other, Ben and Colin.
When you get to play with him, does he just come out for like a foursome game, or is it like you and him practicing?
I've drilled a couple times with those guys. I'd say more regularly, it's like we get a game, me, Deckel, Ben, and Colin, something like that.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. When you look at that list and like when you prioritize who you want to practice with, what do you look for at this point? Because like this thought had come up like earlier in this conversation, but man, it's crazy because you've only been pro for 3 years. I know you had talked about how in the past you were like playing tournaments with your dad from like 2014 to 2018. So you've been a pro for 3 years, but it feels so long ago that you were doing the chainsaw serve. You were like successful in singles and then also in like of course, like other other formats too. But like when you had the Franklin deal and you were like a sponsored Franklin player, so like, yeah, what do you look for now as far as like optimizing your game?
In terms of like who I play with, or
Who you play with, and like what you look for, like how you can get the best like bang for your buck, if you will, like from practice.
yeah, I mean, like, practice. Like, maybe this isn't the best answer, but like I want to play with people that are fun. So like you saw, we were having fun, and at the end of the day, like, yes, pickleball is absolutely a business and a job for me, but like if it wasn't fun, I would quit. Deloitte wasn't fun, so I quit. Like, if I'm not having fun, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to go find something that's more enjoyable. And like, yeah. So, I love the games that we play: Sincola, Jack, Stefan, Deckel, like, just fun dudes where we can like talk a little shit back and forth and have a good time. Because they're all at a good enough level, right? Like, there's a certain probably minimum requirement. If it's shit pickleball, it's not going to be fun. If it's shit people, it's not going to be fun, right? So, yeah, good people, good pickleball. Like, you don't have to be Ben Johns to be like able to practice with Zane, right? It sounds so douchey, but like. But yeah, if you're a good dude and good enough at pickleball, or good gal, good enough at pickleball, like, yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
Like Carlos. Carlos is a perfect example. Dude was a shitter like like 9 months ago, but he was a cool dude, so we would hang out with him. And now he's gotten so much better.
Oh,
you got to send me this clip. I'm going to send it to Carlos.
Yeah.
Carlos and I are good buddies. He's the one who runs the lab, as you know, and he was pretty new, but I was like, yeah, this guy's getting better. He's just a cool dude. He's grinding. Like, let's play.
Yeah. That lab, Carlos. Yeah, of course, cool dude. Yeah, I guess I'd never really get to see him like in a competitive setting as far as like playing, so I haven't seen his like progression. But that's cool to hear that he's just gotten better. I guess, man, if you surround yourself with Zane Navratil, Zane Gucci, dude, what's up with that? Who I've been meaning to ask this. Who honestly updates your Wikipedia page? There's some ridiculous shit on there. There's something that says you go by the name Gucci. There's also stuff that says, in quotes, tremendous skill in the sport, able to return shots from opponents that against most players would be winners.
I don't know. I think anybody can get on Wikipedia and make a profile. Yeah, I couldn't tell you.
Where did the Gucci thing come from? Is that actually true?
Nobody actually really calls me Gucci. So in high school, I was, believe it or not, kind of a little shit. So I liked to stir the pot. I liked to, I liked to poke and prod and whatnot. But I went through a phase where I thought I was really creative and funny, and I made all of my different accounts based on like rappers or dictators. So like I had some, I had like my Snapchat account was like Kim Jong the illest. and my let's see, I had an Instagram, I had something or another where I was Waka Flocka Zane, because like for Waka Flocka Flame, and then I also did Gucci Zane for my Instagram because I thought it was just like hilarious, and then nobody ever really called me that. I just thought it was funny. And then Kyle Slinko from Boxcar, when we started playing pickleball together, he found that old Instagram and he started calling me Gucci Zane, and he started calling me Gucci. And so it kind of caught on for a little bit in pickleball.
Let's bring it back. Can we get t-shirts?
Gucci. There we go.
What is Boxcar Productions?
It's just it's his media company. They did the live streaming for a bunch of Major League Pickleball and APP events.
Okay, that's where I was like, I feel like I should know this, or they've like done something in pickleball. Okay, so they did I remember the MLP events. Mm-hmm. That's cool.
Yeah, dude, he's a smart guy. Like he just saw he's a great entrepreneur. Back in 2019 or 2020, he saw that like people are just live streaming these events from their phone. Like Scott Golden was this guy who would just go to like 50 tournaments a year and literally just set up a tripod and record from his phone. He's like, oh, there's a need for people to live stream these matches. And so he is a completely self-taught guy. And now he's like in charge of like live streaming some of these pretty legit events. Dude knew nothing about cameras at all, like 3.5 years ago, 4 years ago. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a cool story. Get him on the pod. You'd have a fun time talking with him.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, for sure.
That would be cool. Yeah, I haven't really gotten like people from the creative side. Like I wanted to get this guy named Jake Lewis. He was like the creative director for the PPA. Super cool dude. Like I think you could credit him for some of the transformations that happened in like the past year, just like modern like aesthetics and transformations of how things look. But then I think just like the terms changed, just like with other people like the hype guys.
No comment. Terms changed.
Yeah, I'll have to check him out. But like we keep going on the topic of like entrepreneurs, and when I look at your career, it's like pretty different from everyone else. Like if you like look at if you look at the players, then you look like how many of them have YouTube channels? Not that many. Like how many are like at the top, in the top 10, or have like been in the top 10 for at least like more than a year, or more than one event, right? How many of them are like consistently up there? Then like how many of them have a signature paddle? How many of them like are like run clinics? Like what advice would you have for like or for players from like the entrepreneurial perspective of like how to really like optimize the opportunity that you have like as a player? Because man, when you look at like your career, which is not that you're anywhere close to like it being done, but you've had good sponsorships. You even look at your website, you have like plenty of good sponsorships. Just like seems like you're the type of guy who just actually doesn't have enough time in his day anymore.
Well, I mean, I would say if there's advice that I have for players, it would be that this does come to an end for everybody, right? No matter how good you get, no matter how much money you make in pickleball, like it comes to an end. And so, you know, you want to prepare for that inevitability, right? It's either you get old, the game passes you up, you get hurt, like it's going to end at some point. So I really didn't want to go back to being an auditor. So I'm making sure that like I can make ends meet in pickleball if I don't touch a paddle ever again, right? So that comes with building assets like the YouTube channel. It comes from promoting on social media. It comes from working closely with partners and whatnot. And, you know, networking, creating good relationships. So I'd say like acknowledging the inevitability that pickleball as a player is going to end for everybody is not fun, right? But I think an understanding of that helps you to plan for it, right? If you just sort of don't think about it, then, you know, you're at some point it's going to happen and you're not going to be prepared. So I would say like find something else within the industry that you enjoy and is income generating and start building.
What came first, like among the things that you had that probably brought you revenue, like the signature paddle, the clinics, YouTube channel? Like what seemed like the best option when you were first trying to figure all that out of like being more than just a player?
Yeah. So actually this came from, you know, I worked a ton of hours in my job, and I was going to get reassigned to a different client over the summer in Wisconsin. And so I was already working like 12-hour days, and I was going to be working even more. And so I decided to quit in June of 2020. And the plan was actually to just teach some pickleball lessons over the summer while I look for a new job. And the lessons the lessons really took off. It quickly turned into group lessons, quickly turned into small clinics, quickly turned into larger clinics, then multiple clinics per day. And so it started out with teaching and clinics. And that was something that I did a ton of through 2022. I created the APP Academy, which partnered up with the APP to put on clinics every day, every Monday after a tournament. And so did a ton through 2022, not as many through 2023 and 2024, as I focused on things that don't require me to be there, that are a little bit more passive, right? Because I would always be a bottleneck in a Zane Navratil clinic. If Zane's not there, the clinic doesn't happen, right? So I started shifting more towards things that I can do and sort of farm out and scale. Like YouTube production, obviously I need to be on court there, but in a clinic I can be on court with 16 people at a given time. Like you saw that one video had 200,000 views. So I can help 200,000 people, by filming a 10-minute video or whatever.
Yeah, the scaling is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be repurposed, right? Like a clinic, you could film it, but like a clinic, you're only really doing that like once. And like you said, it's like the limitation is how many people it reaches. But yeah, that video, like you have one video, it's like 20. I think your average is like, honestly, like anywhere from like 30,000 views to like 60,000, which is like huge. And another benefit is like most people don't really have to pay for it either, which is like you're also like providing like a free content, free service, free product to people. That's dope. And you don't have to try and squeeze everything into like one clinic too. You can like come out with different types of content. How do you ideate on the content? Like the topics and like ideas?
So historically it's come from just things that I've worked with people in person. So Sally's having trouble with her forehand dink because she's using her wrist. Like I figured out a lot of it's come from working with students. I'd say more recently, I've probably been going a little bit more into the high level changes in the game, like players not slicing, returns, some of the newer shots and tactics that are just coming from banana shot. Yeah. At the high level of the game. So, and then, some of the creative stuff, like we just started filming pros versus 5-0s, which I'm super excited about, where it's more entertainment. So myself and other pros from Austin play against very good players that just aren't quite pros. So we have really high quality of play, but we're also changing some of the rules. Like a couple weeks ago, we filmed one where the 5-0s had a wider court to hit into. We made the sideline 18 inches wider. We had one where Jack Monroe and I had to play one up, one back. So I couldn't volley. We had one where the 5-0s, where we had to stay further back from the kitchen. We were 2 feet further away from the kitchen. And then the last one was the pros couldn't dink. We weren't allowed to hit the ball into the kitchen. If we did hit the ball into the kitchen, it was a point for the other team. So the kitchen was out if we hit it. So like I've been doing some of that stuff, and just like the ideas just keep flowing. Like those are just so much fun because yeah, those are just genuinely fun to do, and definitely going to do a whole lot more.
They're fun. You're probably learning like they won't like there's like this idea from like the ecological approach of like how to like using constraints in practice, and like there's like that idea of like you don't necessarily need to practice things that you would do exactly in like a competition setting, but the fact that you're solving problems is actually what you want to be doing, because it creates like an adaptable problem solver rather than like you're adjusting a skill set or a technique. So that is interesting. Like something that sounds the most interesting is that not being able to dink. Then you just become more creative and you try to like figure out how to solve the problem, whether or not that problem would be realistic in the competition setting. They say like still helps because you just learn how to figure things out.
Yeah, I think the problem solving is obviously super important, and you're doing it in a regular pickleball match as well. There are more well-defined metas in a pickleball match, a normal one, but being able to solve problems leads to be able to do it in real matches. And so I think some of the interesting part about this is I'll come up with an idea, and like, you know, we have to stay 8 feet away from the net instead of 7. And I don't know how much that's going to affect things. Yeah. Like, even I don't know who's going to win that, right? We bump out the sidelines 18 inches. I'm like, I don't know whether Ryan and Ahmed are going to win or me and John are going to win. And that's, I think, part of the fun, because I'm participating in it. I'm creating the ideas, but also, like, I don't know who's going to win. Yeah. And like figuring out, okay, you know, if we can't dink, what do we do instead? Or one up, one back. The one up, one back video, I think, is going to be so good. It's going to be the first one that's released.
So one up, one back, is it just a 1v1 or like your team, there's one person up and one person back?
So my team.
Okay.
So we played against Adrian and Maximo, a couple of Austin guys who are good. They've had good results in some of the pro stuff. But they're not like deep run main draw pros. But we decided that it was one up, one back. But the way that we defined it was I couldn't volley. So at no point could I take the ball out of the air.
Are you the person up front?
I'm the person I'm staying back.
Okay.
Right. If I could, so I can't volley at any point, and I had to take every single third shot drop. So Jack wasn't allowed to touch the ball off of the third. So we ended up in like sort of a stacked position where like I was staying back, Jack is up at the net, but I'm playing the left side, he's playing the right side. And they started to try and like dink me. I would come up, I would get the dink, I would run back because I can't volley. And like there was so much strategy changes throughout a 3-game match that like that one was so much fun.
Damn. That's another thing too, though. It's like you're also mixing up what practice can look like and like making it fun, which that in itself just makes pickleball and like the fact that you're in a pro career like more enjoyable, right? Like you're just making it more fun because it could become monotonous, and sometimes like the creativity is like lacking a little bit because you're in that same structure. But damn, that's so interesting.
Yeah, I mean, like for that one, Jack got a ton of work on like poaching, right? Like, so he's up at the net, he's like poaching everything. I got a ton of work on dropping and driving and setting up somebody who's gonna poach, right? So it was some good sort of cross training, right? So yeah, I'm super, super stoked about those videos.
Yeah, that's gonna be sweet.
I think they'll crush. But like we talked about before, we have no idea what's gonna crush and what doesn't.
Yeah, because there's a video you have about like bangers use this or like use this against bangers, and you watch like other channels, and like historically the videos about bangers have very high like view rates and like retention rates, but then you look at the video you post, I think it's only like 30 or 60,000 views, which is good, but it's not like as high as those other channels where it's like, oh, do this against a banger, where their videos get like 400,000 views. You're like, what? It's weird if you like try to hit on a very similar and relevant topic.
Yeah, if somebody is a YouTube expert, like hit me up. Yeah, I mean, like I've got good ideas, but I am not like, actually that's a pretty legit request. Like if somebody's a YouTube expert, for sure, like shoot me a DM or something. Cause like I try to surround myself by people who are smarter than I am. Like I would say, unless Ben or Colin is listening to this, I'm probably smarter than you at pickleball, but I'm sure you're smarter than me at YouTube and a million other things. So like, yeah, I have good ideas for content. Like I feel like I know what to teach Sally, or, you know, some good ideas for fun matchups, but like I'm no expert in titles or editing or any of that stuff. That's for sure.
From what I saw, like They seem good. Like the thumbnails seem good. It's like straightforward, using kind of like an arrow to help like grab attention. The colors are like complementary, and there's like decent amount of contrast, and it's pretty consistent. You're always in the thumbnail too. Yeah, it's interesting.
I got some of the basics down.
Yeah, yeah.
Some of the basics.
What has been like the difference between Frank when you were with Franklin versus like now with ProXR?
Yeah, so I would say like with Franklin, I was very much like a sponsored player, right? Like it was kind of a, use our paddle, make some posts, and that's more or less it. But the cool thing with ProXR was when I started speaking to them, they were really interested in bringing somebody in who was an expert in the field and had business knowledge. And so I'm actually an employee of the parent company, the private equity firm 35 Capital. So I'm the director of pickleball strategy for 35 Capital, which their whole strategy they started out with ProXR, but they're looking to acquire and merge with a bunch of different brands within pickleball, whether that's clothing or shoes or whatever. The best example here is they just announced UPP, the United Paddles Partnership, or Pickleball Partnership. And that brought together PaddleTech, ProXR, and Boundless Pickleball under one umbrella. These guys wanted me not only as a player, but for my, like, I guess, industry expertise, whether that's designing paddles or knowing people's preferences or connections or whatever. They wanted me on the business side of things. And so it's been an absolutely unbelievable partnership because, like, they pay me to give certain advice to them. And as a result of that, like, they listen when I have some 2 cents. So, but yeah, no, they're unbelievable partners to me. Like, they make me feel like a true partnership rather than a sponsorship. And yeah, I mean, I'll be with ProXR 35 Capital for forever. So
that's another huge thing. It's like, man, you're just like figuring out how to be an asset in so many ways. Like, you're not just you're not just trying to think of like things on the surface level or just like a one-time off thing. Like, just being a sponsored player, it's like, okay, like, how can I actually be an asset to the company? Damn, that's sick.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty fortunate throughout all of this, right? Where, like, there's a bunch of chaos in pro pickleball world, right? Like, I'm very fortunate where I have a paycheck coming regardless of what happens. It takes some of that stress out, and yeah, I just can't say enough how awesome and that those guys have been. It makes me want to promote them more too, right? Like, they listen to me, and it just makes me feel better about them. Like, so yeah, and I think those are the best partnerships, right? Where, like, both people are in it for good reasons.
That's awesome. That is like something so big though, right? It's like you're not just making a name for yourself as like an image, but like your knowledge. It's like knowledge is really like what you ultimately kind of want to be compensated for or make like a living off of. Like, knowledge, like we just talked about, doesn't require you to be physically in a place. You could like write books. There's so much like passive income streams, but also people like seek you out because, like, if you have knowledge, that puts you in like a niche in a way because you have like your own independent way of thinking and your way of approaching things, which has clearly like been working out for you. Like, I really can't think of many other players that are kind of doing what you're doing. I think Ben, because he has that lifetime deal with Yola, like, I'm sure he has a lot of influence on what their direction of pickleball goes in the direction they go. But yeah, that's super cool. Yeah, I guess he has like pickleball getaways and a lot of other like small ventures. But do you guys have like anything that you're able to like talk about as far as like releases or like maybe paddle technology? Jack had like briefly said that there's like they're working on paddle stuff, but he didn't go into like any detail about it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a good paddle company, you're always working on stuff. Like, R&D never stops, and they've branded themselves as a tech company, and we are constantly like experimenting with new stuff. So yeah, we'll have a new line at some point in 2024. There's not a whole lot that I can say, but 2023 was a really good year for ProXR. Like, we sold a ton of those paddles, not without a little controversy, but hey,
Nah, it's good.
Am I the most controversial player in pickleball at this point, with serves, with paddles, with opinions on tours? Like, I got to be up there at least.
Yeah. That's a good. I think that's a good brand for yourself.
And I'm not even like a confrontational guy, like, at all, really, but
No, you're like one of the nicest guys.
I appreciate that.
Except
Until
when
you
you're-
really get to know me, then like you saw how nice of a guy I am over at practice.
Yeah.
Like,
Unless
once
you're
you
at
get
the
to know
lab.
me, I turn from nice guy to like asshole. But like, I'm a nice asshole.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. I don't know how many of those exist, but yeah, dude, your paddle was a hit. Like, yeah, your paddle was a hit. I'm excited to see like what y'all also work on. That's pretty crazy that they also acquired Paddle Tech. I hear good things about Annalise Paddle.
Mm-hmm. That's Poppy. It's merge. So it's not like fully like an acquisition.
Oh,
it's
it's
a
a merge,
little bit
okay.
different. Yeah. So, yep.
Speaking of, every time I hear merger, I just think of PPA and MLP.
Yeah,
So
for
then
sure.
now my brain is going to like PPA.
Yeah, but this one happened. They signed the deal. Like, they're good.
What have your thoughts been on the like recent changes of probably just like, well, I guess like the past month, but I think progressive draws have been happening for like a few months now. But main two things, also because Tyson posted about it, but the Vulcan ball and the progressive draws.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think I first mentioned progressive draws probably, and I didn't say it with that wording, but I was talking about alternative formats to the current or to the previous one-day tournaments for probably since the beginning of last year.
Oh, right.
And so,
Why?
because you need to solve the problem of not knowing when players are going to play. Like, players need to have a schedule, and they need to be able to do that for fans. They need to be able to do that for the player, and they need to be able to do that for television and gambling. Like, you can't really do any of those things without a set schedule, or at least like a followed by schedule. Like, right. So I like the progressive draw a lot. It makes sense. You play a men's doubles, a men's singles, and a mixed doubles in a given day. You got 3 matches and you're done. And then you play the draw over a couple of days. I think it makes a ton of sense. This past weekend was not a progressive draw, so that was like tough on the body. The progressive draw, you're limited to like, in the early rounds you might have multiple matches, but in the later rounds you are only having like 3 matches per day if you're in all the different events. So I think Tyson likes the progressive draws. He says 1, serve roll needs to go, 2, Vulcan ball needs to go, 3, progression draws need to stay. My body was so trashed after 10 individual games of singles. I was 60 to 70% at most during mixed day. Not fair to fans, my mixed partner, or myself that players are all beat up and suffering. No way this 34-year-old dad can handle days like that. Progression draws is the answer.
That's another guy who's done really good with like Brandon.
Yeah, he's done a ton of
Business side,
stuff,
yeah.
for sure. Yeah, he's got all the same avenues, YouTube camps, all that stuff. So, yeah, so I think progression draws are good. The new serve rule, I don't think solves anything. It's still an impossible to enforce rule, which I think means it's a bad rule.
It makes sense. Like, I thought the whole point was to like keep it below someone's like belly button, because like at some point, or like their hip or whatever, there's like some area, but now you still can't really tell.
Yeah. They just moved it from one point where you can't enforce it to a different lower point where you can't enforce it. Right? Like before it was your belly button and nobody knows where the belly button is. Now it's the top of the hip. And like, oh, we changed it. We made it better. No, you just changed where the problem occurs.
Yeah. Do you think they should just not have like a serve rule?
I think if you want a rule that is... If you want to continue with the way that pickleball has been played, I think that the best way to do it is to utilize the drop serve, because there's one thing to enforce. It's, are you simply dropping the ball? And then the refs don't have to look at anything. I think any changes to loosening up serve rules would, I think, need to probably add additional dimensions to the court. So like, what I was thinking of is, you know, if you really wanted to say, okay, you can serve however you want, you'd probably need to put in a service line or like make the person serve from further back behind the court. But I think a big part of pickleball is the fact that we're not serving overhand. I think the overhand serve is probably the biggest barrier to entry for tennis players. It's really hard. And I think eliminating that barrier to entry is huge for pickleball. So I don't think pickleball would want to go to any sort of like completely free service rule, just because I think it's great for amateurs to be able to come in and play. But I think the drop serve sort of does accomplish it, right? If you utilize the drop serve, you are free to swing however you want once the ball hits the ground.
Like the height that you drop it from, it's because it's like a pickleball and it's also landing on like the court surface. Have you noticed like a big difference if you're like is one more advantageous than the other in terms of like the height of where you drop it? Are you like usually trying to drop it like from as high as you physically can?
Yeah. Yeah, you want to drop it from as high as you can, but it's not like, if your goal is to make the ball bounce as high as possible, you want to drop it from as high as possible up to a certain, there's probably an upper limit to how high a pickleball can bounce. But yeah, you want to drop it from higher in order to like get the ball to bounce higher. Yeah. Make your contact point higher. But it neutralizes things a little bit, because even if you're 7 feet tall, the ball isn't bouncing all that much higher if you're 6 feet tall. Yeah, I mean, like, as much as I'm in favor and always have been in favor of like letting the serve be a weapon, I really dislike unenforceable rules.
Sounds on par with someone who enjoys creating controversy.
Does it though? I'm gonna read the rules and I'm gonna use the rules to my advantage, 100%. But the rules are the rules. Like, I don't try to play outside of the rules. But if something's written, like, it is the way that it is, and I'm gonna play by the rules.
You're gonna get as close as you possibly can.
100%.
Like the proxr paddles.
Absolutely. Yeah. If there's a limit, there's a limit. Yeah. But don't change the goalposts once, like, if we found a way to like get to that limit.
Yeah. God, do you know how many people you pissed off with the chainsaw serve?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm well aware.
That was such a iconic time though. Like in the pro scene, of course, it was like very interesting. But even like in the amateur scene, like I had a guy who like became very good at doing it, and he was like doing it to like 3-0s and 3-5s, and people were just so sour.
Yeah. You know, I have plenty of opinions on the chainsaw serve. Yeah, it sounds like that guy. Reading this chainsaw serve was just as much of a skill as doing the chainsaw serve. So like there was never a single unpredictable chainsaw serve. You can absolutely always 100% anticipate which way it's going to bounce.
It's just unfortunate that tip didn't come out until after people were so pissed.
Well, I mean, It did. And I think a big part of the reason why I was upset by the rule change was that the rules committee USA Pickleball Rules Committee just used incorrect logic. Like, some of their logic was that the ball bounces unpredictably, and that's not true. Like, let's have a conversation about the fact of the matter, and then we can decide whether we want to ban this or not. But like decisions were made based on false information. Which, like, if we want to ban the chainsaw serve, let's ban the chainsaw serve, but let's have an informed conversation about it.
It's weird that I don't have anything against them. I just think it's weird that there's no like other governing body, and that like the pros, and I guess it does trickle down to the amateurs, you just have to adhere to whatever they say. Like you said, there's no like conversation about it. There's no like informed, like decision or like argument against it. It's just like, this is the reason why. And if it doesn't make sense, then it still gets enforced.
Well, I think there's like, there's some comment periods and whatnot. Yeah, I think, I've said this on the Dink podcast as well, but like, we're at the point certainly where we need different governing bodies for different objectives. USA Pickleball does a great job of growing amateur participation. The objective of the PPA is not to grow amateur participation, right? It is to create the best pickleball product for television. In every single sport, there's different rules based on different objectives, right? Like, little kids soccer, they use a tiny little goal, a tiny ball, and a tiny field, right? They don't play soccer on the same field that the World Cup is played on, right? Like, if you're playing for kids, you use these set of rules. If you're playing in college, you use this set of rules. Adult soccer will use this type of rules. Professional soccer will use this type of rules. You need rules for the objective that you're trying to accomplish, right? And so I think that USA Pickleball and professional pickleball are going to continue to diverge in a few different ways.
That would be hilarious, though, to see like kids playing on World Cup.
Can you imagine? With a ball that's like half the size of them. But that's what we're doing right now. We have professionals playing the game pretty much the exact same way that 90-year-olds are playing the game. It doesn't make sense to do that.
Yeah. I guess they're not outfitting it to like the specific context. They're just kind of using like a broad generalization. Do you have any influence on, you probably don't based on the way you tweet, any influence on like rules or regulations? Like, do any of the pros really?
Yeah, I mean, like our opinions, I think are certainly considered. Several of the different things that we had talked about on the podcast got implemented by MLP. Whether that was switching sides at the end of every game, a challenge system. I think we had talked about a progression draw. We had talked about changing out the balls every game. Pickleball is absolutely not a solved sport at the professional level. And so if there's good ideas, kudos to the people who take good ideas at this point and implement them. Yeah. So there's going to be, I think we've been responsible for some, others have been responsible for others. And, kudos to the leagues for acknowledging that this is a very new sport with new problems and there might be a better way.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of a better way, the Vulcan ball. How do you feel about the Vulcan ball?
I think that Vulcan is going to make some changes to their ball, I'd have to imagine.
What a polite way to say it sucks.
It sucks. So it sucks for pros, I think. But like, I'd say for amateurs, it is probably a very good ball. It solved the big problem of Duras that they break. At our level, they go out of round too quickly, which creates a lot of bad bounces. When they're round, they play pretty well. They go out of round quickly. So they seem to generate a little bit more spin than Duras did. They seem to play pretty they play pretty differently based on the conditions and temperature. So in cold temperatures, they seem to play faster than a Dura. In warm temperatures, they seem to play slower than a Dura. So the variation between temperatures seems to be larger with the ball. But yeah, I mean, it's there are a lot of bad bounces with this ball for sure. You know, I think Erik, like in our semifinal match on center court, like he whiffed a return, and like dude's a pro athlete. Like he's not gonna just whiff a random ball. Like there are a lot of bad bounces.
So like the Vulcan is like going out of shape versus like the Dura is oblong, right? Like I feel like they're naturally, like some of them are just like oblong and they like have weird bounces. But I guess you're kind of saying that the Vulcan comes like initially it's a standard, like what you would expect, but then over time it starts to like morph.
Yeah, I'd say that you hit them a couple times and they go out of round relatively quickly.
Yeah.
I'd say the Duras seem to hold their shape better.
Oh,
but they also crack, right? I've never
Yeah.
cracked a Vulcan ball.
Oh, really? Yeah. Oh, damn. It's interesting. I also
Probably throw them away because they go out of round first, but
oh, so it's like whichever problem comes first.
yeah, I would say, you know, the interesting thing is the useful life of a Dura and a Vulcan is probably a better conversation because, you know, Dura's problem is they crack, Vulcan's problem is they go out of round. And so for an amateur, if it's slightly out of round, it doesn't matter quite as much. An amateur is more concerned with whether their ball cracks or not. For a pro, where we're going to change out balls every game or we're going to use new balls every practice, like it's not as important to us how long the balls last, but the quality of the ball as we're playing with it. So I have no doubts that the Vulcan is a very good ball for most players. It needs some improvements at the pro level.
Hopefully they do like change that, like, or they're just able to like move quickly on like iterating if they think that that's like a critical component. I think like the Selkirk, like I was practicing with my buddy yesterday and we were just like checking out the Selkirk. We're at like Eastside Paddle Club. They just have a bunch of like Selkirks, and initially it was great because you're like, oh man, the durability and like the half-life of these balls is great. Like we don't have to keep buying like multiple balls. But then once you realize like over time, like, oh, this sucks. The ball just gets soft. And then you're like, oh man, like the durability has its like drawback because it just gets softer. And you're like, oh shit, this ball's like super soft now. And yeah, it's interesting.
I mean, it's like tennis balls going dead, basically, right? Like pickleballs kind of go dead too. They might not ever, a tennis ball might not ever break, but it becomes unusable.
One thing I wanted to talk about is like Alzheimer's now. Can you go into like, how did that start? I know you and I guess you could say the organization and everyone who like contributed to it like raised nearly like $200,000. But like, what was like the inception and like what is like kind of the future for it?
Yeah. So thanks for asking, because I love to shout these guys out when I can. Alzheimer's runs in my family on my dad's side. My grandma passed away from Alzheimer's, and I'm not gonna lie, it was rough. Like, just, she was the nicest person, and she turned into like the most confused and cranky and nasty old lady, which she was somebody who just, when she was her, she's the nicest person I knew. And when the disease took over, like, she didn't know what was going on, and she was just awful. And so it really changed her and had it was not fun to watch. So, as I started to grow some of my platforms and have more success in pickleball, I started to look for a nonprofit partner, and Alzheimer's was something that came to mind because of my, family experience with it. And I looked at some of the national, big, the Alzheimer's Association, Alzheimer's Foundation, like the big, nonprofits, and the accountant in me took over, and I looked through their financials, and I was seeing that they weren't giving a tremendous amount of their revenue to the actual research. And so I didn't end up doing anything with any of these companies. And I taught this clinic in actually just the beginning of 2023 at Sage Hill Inn here in Austin. Have you ever been there, by the way? Dude, it's sweet. They got 4 pickleball courts.
Is that where like your video, like some of those videos are filmed?
I haven't done any videos there,
Okay.
but yeah, it is the perfect like little pickleball getaway place. So shout out to those guys. Me and Jenny do staycations there all the time. But I did a clinic there, and there's this guy who like emailed my team, and he was like, "Hey, I hurt myself, but I still want to come and watch." And the guy was in a boot, and so he was just sitting there while I was teaching the clinic, and he had this thing on his chest that said "Stop Alzheimer's Now," and I was like, "Hey, what is that?" He was like, "Oh, this is a nonprofit that I run. We give 100% of all of the revenue that we take in to Alzheimer's research." I was like, "Oh, dude, sweet. I've been looking for somewhere to work with that actually gives the money to research." And so I looked through their financials, and sure enough, actually they have one expense. You legally have to run your accounting and tax preparation expense through the nonprofit. So basically, like every year they spend like $500 on that. So, and then the guy Sean who runs it covers that himself. So really, 100% of what's given to them is sent to research. And so I was like, there's no better way to give back to that cause. And Sean's been an awesome partner in that. And I think it's something that we can continue to grow. And I think it's pretty cool to be able to use a platform to raise $200,000 for a really good cause, and, make a difference in that way.
So the money goes towards research. Who's running it? Is it like a nonprofit organization, or is it like a single individual? That's
Who runs Stop Alzheimer's Now, or the research?
Stop Alzheimer's Now.
So I think they have a board. I would say Sean McDuffie is kind of, for the most part, in charge of it. He lives here in Austin. He's actually the guy we play at his court. And that's where a bunch of the highlight clips come from.
Okay.
So that might
the
be what
banner.
Yeah.
With Stop. Oh, okay.
Yep. So he's kind of in charge of it, but there's a board and whatnot, and then the board decides where the money is going to go. So, they've funded different sort of high-risk research programs at different universities, like Temple University, and several others. So yeah, basically the money that they raise goes to different research programs at universities.
Damn, that's interesting.
So it's focused on finding a cure.
Yeah, that's crazy that they're able to give 100% of the proceeds to the research.
Yeah, I mean, Sean did it for a similar reason to me. Like, his Alzheimer's runs in his family. Both of his parents passed away from it. And so he really runs it and fronts the costs, because for him, it's either like donate to the American Alzheimer's Association, which only 10% of his donation is really going to go to research, or he does it himself, runs it, fronts the administrative costs, and gives the money directly to research and does his own thing.
Yeah.
So, I'm very, very fortunate to have found that, and I think it's a really great partnership.
Yeah, like the percent that they like give back is very interesting, because I remember I like read a post on Reddit, of all places. This actually does have some credibility. But they were talking about that. They're like, how do you find like an organization that's willing to like give up more of like the contribution and like the total percentage? And then someone else was commenting and was just like, well, see, it's not that easy to just like give everything up, because there's like, it's kind of like a double-edged sword. If you do, then you tend to not get the highest quality talent, and like typically the people in the role that like, well, one, like how many people really want to work at a nonprofit, and then like the two is like how many very skilled people want to be able to do that level of work, because it does require a lot of work if the pay is low. So they're saying like, they're just kind of like making the argument that if you wanted to draw the best talent to help this cause, or like any cause, you usually, you want someone who's very like proficient at this, the desired skill needed. And that typically requires a higher like, pay or salary. So it's like, that's interesting.
For sure. Well, you got to spend money to make money, right?
Yeah.
And so Goodwill gets in trouble like every year because their CEO makes 7 figures. He's making millions of dollars. But at the same time, like, is it worth it? And so the percentages were bad, in my opinion, for the national foundations, but it was also, they didn't have phenomenal scores on like Charity Navigator, which is it's a site that sort of evaluates how efficiently they use donations. So if I'm trying to put together an event if I put together a crappy event and I can raise $100 and give it all to charity, or I can raise $10,000 and spend $1,000, my ratio of donation is going to be worse, but my overall contribution is going to be better if I spend money to make money. So the percentages isn't the only thing, of course, but they also just weren't using the money as efficiently as I would like. So I oversimplified to use the percentage, but you're absolutely correct.
Yeah, no,
So,
I get what you mean though. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Alzheimer's is like tough. I don't know if my grandma had Alzheimer's or dementia. My mom had said dementia, but like I don't know if she was like 100% right, but it's definitely weird like as the progression happens, because my grandma would be like, "Oh, like how was class?" And she like thought I was like in high school, and I would see her like it was maybe like 4 years ago, and she like just thought I was like still in high school. And like the conversations are short or like repetitive, and you're like, it's also like tough because you're like, damn, like, is what we're like talking about or the time that was spent, the moment, really going to be like savored or like on her end, I guess, or like on whoever's end it is. So yeah, it's definitely interesting.
Yeah, they kind of have the same stories that they sort of go through, or their own mental things that stick out to them. Sean actually put it a really interesting way that I had never thought about. But Alzheimer's and dementia are diseases of the memory. Not only do they take the affected person's memory, but they take everybody else's memory, right? Because it would be really easy for me to remember my grandma as like a cranky old lady, which she absolutely wasn't. But for the last 5 years of her life, that's what she was. It wasn't her, but that's what she was. And so it almost makes you remember that family member in a negative way, even though it was the disease and not really them. Yeah. So he mentioned that like it takes away your memories as well as theirs, which was a way that I hadn't really thought about it before, but it makes so much sense.
Yeah, that also makes sense, because like typically our memories of people are usually like of the last time we saw them or spent time with them, and then also like the negativity part, like humans in general just naturally gravitate towards negativity. So that's tough. I mean, I think that's also like a lesson or like something to take away. Is like if you know someone with Alzheimer's or dementia, then try to remember them in like who they were maybe before it all happened. Damn, that's interesting.
Yeah, not easy to do, obviously, but
yeah. Is there anything I haven't asked you about that you wanted to talk about?
No, nothing in particular that stands out to me. I mean, I love just kind of the free flowing conversation.
Yeah.
So
this has been interesting from watching your videos on YouTube like 3 years ago, and then being able to sit down and have a conversation with you has been like super cool. You've always been, despite what you may have said about being a nice asshole. You've been like super nice even before like this. I would always like randomly see you and you're like super cordial. So I appreciate that. This is kind of similar to Jack, which that episode hasn't gone out, but I was like, we were kind of talking about how he's like kind of an ambassador since he's like kind of on that younger side and on the like collegiate side too. And I think like you're kind of in that same vein. Like, I think like we can be grateful that you touch on a lot of different aspects of the sport, that you're not just a player, but like you bring a good image to like clinics, YouTube, to the business side of things. I'm not a pro, so I maybe can't say this like confidently, but I think you generally have like the right or like the best intentions for like everyone and wanting to have like a fair and consistent and like good playing experience. So it's been cool, man. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, dude. Thank you so much for having me on. And I like doing these longer form type of things. And it's not an easy thing to sit in your chair and ask this. And you know, for the people listening, we had a good 45-minute call beforehand going through some of this and doing some research. So you really do your background work, which is why I think this is such an interesting podcast to listen to, and also an interesting conversation for me to have.
Yeah.
Right. I'm sick of the surface level, like,
How'd you get into pickleball?
Yeah. Oh God, if you asked me that, I probably would have walked out.
I wanted to open up with that just to be like, just to f with you.
You would have got me.
I got scared. I was like, nah, just
I'd be like,
don't
are you
do it.
fucking kidding me? Are we doing this? Why'd you ask me 45 minutes of questions if you're going to open with, how'd you get into pickleball? What's your favorite tournament?
Yeah, what's your favorite
best
shot?
Yeah, no. That's an immediate no. Immediately no.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you saying that, man. I try to create an experience, something a little bit different, but also just show the side that people don't get to see, right? Like, I think with like it kind of started with the founders. We always get to see the product, but we don't get to see like who's behind it, who's making it happen. And I think it's the same thing with players. There's so many of this very similar story that's talked about. It's like, oh, like I used to play this professional sport and now I'm in pickleball. It's like, okay, well, like there's clearly more to you. I think like your daily checklist stuff and how you operate, hopefully people take a lot away from that. I mean, especially with how many people are aspiring to be pros, there's just so much more opportunity than just being a player. Yeah. Where can more people find out more information about you and like things that you're working on?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say, the thing that I enjoy the most is definitely YouTube. So I'm on YouTube at Zane Navratil Pickleball. I'm on basically every social media as Zane Navratil Pickleball, and there's some good nuggets throughout all those things. I've also got a website, ZaneNavratilPickleball.com, or ZN Pickleball if you can't spell my last name, which is understandable. So I'd say, yeah, check me out on socials or YouTube.
Yeah.
That's the main thing.
Yeah, I forgot to mention, you're also the co-host of the Pickle Pod. And no offense to the previous host, but you're a great addition or replacement.
Yeah, I'm texting Tyson right now, actually.
Cool, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, dude.
too.
Yeah, I hope you liked it. If you like it, I'll get you hooked up with Scott and Jeff. They're cool dudes.
Yeah, I didn't chug it, so like I was like able to sip on it, so it's not bad.
Attaboy. Well, sweet. Thank you, man.
Yeah.
I really do.